Hello and welcome to this recording about the generator type and its aura and the theme of response. As a generator myself, I've been trying to understand what the response really is when I met human design and when I've entered into my experiment. And it took me quite a while, I would say at least 3 months, to get some kind of understanding of what is it we're talking about when we speak about response. Because the response is an energetic phenomenon. It's not something you can figure out through your mind. And only once you're really aware enough and present enough to this energetic sensation within you so that you can recognize that, yes, this is actually me responding, then you can have some kind of an intellectual understanding about what it is. However, I'm using words and I'm using my own understanding and my experiences with clients that so that I can convey to you this phenomenon in a way that hopefully you'll be able to recognize it and align with it. Now, as a generator, you are responding many times a day, so it's not the question of whether you are responding or not. It's the question of whether you're actually present to yourself when you're responding and whether you're actually following these natural expressions of your own energy. So let's take a look at some of these slides that I have for you. You can see we're using this symbol of invert pointing spiral to symbolize the generator type. And the reason for that is that um, generators have very magnetic aura. It's enveloping. It takes things in very deeply. And you can see it metaphorically when you look at the whole planet. This is the planet generator. It is teeming with life. It's full of things that grow. And if you look at the jungle, it's so lush. Everything grows, and if it falls, then out of it grows something else. And that is the life force, which is here on planet Earth, archetypally represented by the generator type. It's not that other types don't have access to it. Yes, they do. But archetypally, generators are the ones that are representing this life force. This theme of life force and sexual energy, which is one and the same, is actually here in the second box from the bottom, where we call this the sacral center. And in the sacral center, you can see that there are all these channels coming from the sacral. There is altogether 11 of them. These are so-called generating channels because they're defining the sacral center. One can have at least one of those channels in order for the sacral center to be defined, to be read in one's chart. And as soon as you have this sacral center defined, it automatically makes you a generator. And so what does it actually mean? You can see that in this picture, we're using the diagram of two yin lines, the two broken lines, where there is a space in the middle of the line, and this space signifies this quality of a generator aura to take things in very deeply and potentially connect with that. This is actually the life force which resides in us generators. When we meet something, somebody wants something from us, we see a billboard for a movie, for example, or a friend that we haven't seen for a while, and these impulses come to us and they enter into us, then what happens is that energetically our life force opens up to that if it wants to. It's not up to us to decide. If the life force itself is available to it, it's the theme of availability. To be available to whatever comes from outside. If we are available, if our life force is available to that which comes to us from outside, it opens up to it and it connects with it. And through this connection, there is more life growing. It's the rising up in the frequency of our life force. It's a sensation that you can learn to track, you can learn to recognize as this kind of a energetic marker within you, to just know that I'm responding to this. Because this life force in and of itself, which is over here, is not aware. We have three centers of awareness: spleen, ajna, and the solar plexus. But the sacral center isn't a center of awareness. It's the center of power. It's the strongest motor in the whole chart. We have these four centers over here: ego, solar plexus, root, and the sacral. And they're so-called motors. They're sources of energy. They give off energy, and sacral is the most powerful of them. So there is this incredible energetic resource which is just waiting to be tapped, and the energy itself doesn't know what we're supposed to do with that. What the energy isn't aware of how it can be applied, but it can do that in response. And so this response is how we know that yes, we have the energy for whatever we're connecting with, and that's it's actually correct for us to be part of it, to participate in it. And I like to say that response is a synonym for connection. These two words can be interchanged. And it's the response to life, actually. It's we're responding to life at large, but we're responding to all kinds of things every day, many times a day. But we're not typically aware that we're responding. We're not really paying attention to that because the conditioning that we've been through, in particular through the school educational system, was that we were just told to sit quietly, don't talk to your neighbors, don't talk to your friends, be disconnected from everybody else, be your own little unit, pay attention to the teacher in front of you, be quiet and memorize things. And obviously nowadays things are changing, and there are some beautiful educational systems that offer alternatives, but for most of us that are watching this recording, I think this is the case. And it's one of the strongest conditioning to disconnect from our life force. When we have these natural uh, uh, responses to say something to a friend, to move towards something, to do something, and we're reinforced over and over in not participating in that and not following these energetic impulses, but just go to our mind and figure out what is that the authority really wants from us to do. How can we figure out the life mentally, intellectually? So there is a lot of conditioning that we go through, obviously, as children and sometimes even as adults, but we're most impressionable when we're young. And this conditioning results in us generators being disconnected from the response. To various degrees. Obviously, I've had clients who told me that they totally get it and this is how they live, but it's mostly a rare exception. Um, it takes a while. It's not easy to really get what the response actually is because as I said, we're tuning into our own energy. And to people that are, for example, doing a lot of things with their body, exercising, dancing, going for walks, and really their body has a lot of freedom of expression, it's way easier to connect with that. But anybody can do it. It just takes some time to really be clear when you're actually responding and when the response is not there, when whatever you do is you do it just because you think you should, because somebody wants you to or somebody expects you to. So this response is the key to our satisfaction. Through response, we generators can really live out all those gifts and talents that we have in our own specific particular chart. Let's take a look at this example chart over here. You can see that there are all these gates activated in this chart. There are all these channels activated in this chart. Um, but the main thing over here actually really is the sacral center. It is the source of life force, life's energy, sexual energy, which is one and the same. It is what provides us with this building potential, with this power to build a life that gives us satisfaction, the power to be part of something and to creatively express our life's energy. And every response is actually unique, and it's specific to the particular design. For example, in this design, you can see there is gate 29 activated, which is the gate of saying yes, which is also nicknamed the gate of always saying yes. It's um, a conditioning for people who have this gate activated in their chart to just very easily go yes to all kinds of things and requests that aren't necessarily good for them. So we know it's the gate of saying yes, it's the gate of commitment, it's the gate that has the power to commit to a process. And on its other end, there is a gate of determination, gate 46, which is also the gate of love of the body. And these two gates are connected through this channel of discovery, design of succeeding where others fail, or possibly succeeding together with other people. It's about total commitment. People with this channel really needs to, when they say yes, when they respond to something, when they connect with something, and if they do that out of that response, if they actually have the power to commit, then they really need to dedicate themselves fully into whatever it is they're doing, not second guessing it, not wondering where it takes them, but to just really give everything they have, they're all into that project, relationship, whatever it is. Okay. And when the person with gate 29 just says yes from the mind, just because they're conditioned to say yes to something when somebody wants them to do something, or they think they should, or they think they must, or basically it's an intellectual, it's a mental decision. It's not happening from response. What it means is that they do not have the power to actually make this stable commitment. They do not have the necessary energy to be able to dedicate themselves fully into whatever it is they're doing. And they will be frustrated because they'll feel as if somebody's holding their hands behind their back, and they can't really give it their all. It's the source of frustration, which, by the way, is uh, a very useful feedback from life. Whenever we as generators are frustrated, it's a sign that we're probably not responding, that we're probably initiating. And I'm using this word initiating in a sense that response happens because it's the response to something that comes to us from outside. Or it could be a sensation in the body we feel. Maybe we're hungry, and so the response is to get up and have some lunch, right? But when we're doing something that isn't initiated from outside, it's something that we decide to do. It's actually starting in the mind. It's mental, intellectual decision. And it can be subconscious, right? We don't have to be fully aware of the reasons, but the conditioning is there typically. Then we speak about it as initiating. And this initiating is the opposite of response. When we respond, we really, the life force is serving life. It is serving for our development, for our maturation. It's serving for our empowerment, for our right direction. It's empowering us. It's supporting us. It's serving our life. It serves our life, and through that, we are in service to the whole planet, to the whole ecosystem, to the community, to the people we're near and dear to. And it allows us to fully express excuse me, it allows us to fully express these gifts and talents that we carry. And as I said, the response is always specific for a specific design. The other channel that is here, for example, the channel of rhythm, design of being and the flow, is a channel of somebody who through response can always find their own timing, to be always not too early or not too late, but just at the right time, to flow through their life. If you have this channel and you respond, you can experience the events of your day as being connected, as all being part of the flow, as you're flowing in your own timing, in your own rhythm. You're pulling everybody else's into your own rhythm, and it's really satisfying. So for this person, it's about making a strong commitment and allowing themselves to flow in their own timing, in their own rhythm, with this dedication and total commitment to whatever it is they're connected with, they've responded to. Now, this is something that's going to give them a lot of satisfaction as a result, because they're applying their life force constructively. They'll also be able, through this gate of sexuality, which breaks down barriers and achieves union with others, they will be able to, when functioning in response, to make a strong commitment that in their own flow, they will break down barriers with others, and together with them, they will succeed or discover something unexpected, the channel of discovery, design of succeeding, through their dedication, and that's what's going to give them a lot of satisfaction. Now, the opposite when they initiate is that they won't have the necessary power to commit. They won't have the necessary dedication. They won't be able to break down barriers and be uh, united with other people. They'll be outside of their flow. They'll be chaotic, and everybody else will be pulled into their chaos. And it's going to be a source of intense frustration for them. So this response is really the key that unlocks the potential for you to live out all those gifts and talents that you have in your chart, and not just the generating channels or the activations in the sacral center itself, but all the other ones. Okay, because for example, here we're looking at the channel of judgment, where this person has a lot of vitality and provides the fuel to challenge the authority, to speak about that which doesn't work, to point out the flaw in the logical pattern, to bring the criticism in a gifted way so that the future improves, and possibly also to provide solutions through this gate of depth. Now, all of that is fine and can totally work as long as the person functions in response, as long as they're connected, as long as they're acting out of the context of the situation, of the conversation, and then they're offering their critique and solutions. And that's when people will be open to hearing it. That's when people will be open to accepting it, and they'll get on board with them so that the solution they provide is actualized. It's taken on board. Um, in other words, the person really needs to connect with the situation, with the conversation, with the project, with the relationship, with whatever is happening around them. They need to be connected to it. In other words, they need to respond to it. Otherwise, if they just come to somebody and say, hey, this is wrong, you should do it better, and this is the better way, and it's going to help you, they can have all kinds of positive intentions, but it's just not going to go well. Others won't be willing to accept it. They won't be interested in it. They're they're going to reject that. And if you have this channel in your design, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. um, this is the channel of organizational being. Again, the person can be a great organizer and can organize the work on correcting that which doesn't work and providing the solutions in their own timing, rhythm, through their total commitment, and be satisfied. But if they just organize because they see that something needs to be organized, if they just provide the criticism, or if they commit and say yes without actually being in response, it just doesn't work. So what happens is that for generators, the ideal strategy to achieve this satisfaction, which is the satisfaction from being able to fully live out and express all those gifts and talents that we carry within us, the ideal strategy is waiting to respond. And this waiting is a very important piece of that, because it's actually how we allow our aura to do the work, how we give chance to our aura to actually do the work. That through waiting, our aura attracts to itself everything we need in our life. And as it happens, we can choose, we can decide. And you can see that as uh, metaphorically, as you being the king or the queen. You can be sitting on a throne and the whole world comes to you. People bring you entertainment, they bring you food, emissaries from foreign countries come to you, and all of that which comes to you, all of that is coming right directly to you. And all you have to do is just to go, uh-huh, I like that, or I don't like that. And not doing that mentally and intellectually, because you can see, by the way, that the sacral center isn't connected through a channel to the mind. This is the mind. It's not connected to the mind. Mind has no way of knowing, and it shouldn't dictate the life, how the life should live. We are living on the material plane, and we need to respect that fact and to respect our vehicle, our body, which is the form principle, and allow our life force as generators, I'm talking about generators, or allow our life force to guide our actions. For anything to happen, we need to have energy, right? So either we have the energy available through response, and then when we respond, we get more and more energy. And even though we can be working hard, we're still being recharged, and it can be a source of a lot of satisfaction. Or if we do it mentally, if we make a mental decision, if we, in other words, initiate, we don't have that sacral energy available, which is otherwise generated there almost out of thin air. It just comes out of nowhere. It's available because we're representing the life on the planet itself. It's just becoming available, and it can go through us. We can channel that life in our own particular, unique, and creative and wonderful ways, right? But if we don't respond, the energy isn't available there, so we're taking this energy from other parts of our body. We're taking it from organs. In the context of Chinese medicine, we're depleting our kidneys, our lungs, our heart, and whatever, right? So we can not only be frustrated, but we can also easily be exhausted, or there is also this feeling of being stuck, unable to move, that's associated with initiating. And so, as a king or queen, all you really have to do is to sit on the throne. Wait for things to show up and come to you, because everything comes to you. And this is what the aura does. When you wait, you allow your aura to do its work. It pulls through its magnetic force everything to you. It pulls things, it attracts things into your life, all kinds of things that uh, are really crucial for your fulfillment. For they can be significant part of the reason why you're born, why you're here. And the reason why we are born is to live out all those gifts and talents that we have, obviously. So there is all kinds of things that comes our way, obviously. Most of those aren't really for us. Most of those are something that we actually need to say no to. Instead of saying yes, we should say no, I will not connect with that. It doesn't do anything for me. It just goes through me. It doesn't stick within you. It just goes through you, and it doesn't land. It's just it just goes through us, and there is no response. It's neutral. There is nothing. Sometimes the response can actually be negative, like, oh, go away, or I don't want to be part of that, or you get up and leave and go away from somewhere. That can also happen in response. But sometimes the response is yes. Sometimes there is this rising up in the frequency. And that's how you know that, yes, it's correct for you to be involved with that. You have the energy that it takes. So over the years that I'm explaining the response mechanism to clients and students, I've had many people asking me, well, was it responding when I did this and this? Or did I respond when I did such and such thing? And my answer is always, I don't know. Only you can know that. And either you respond and you'll find out that you will eventually be satisfied. The response isn't always just taking you to pleasant and wonderful things. It can take you through some intense and challenging situations. You can be going through a divorce in response. You can quit your job in response. You can do all kinds of challenging situations in response. But the response takes you there because ultimately it is going to further your own evolution, your own maturation. It serves in this process of you moving along and growing and maturing as we all can. Life is never stuck. Life is always in movement. Again, look at the jungle. It's different one moment to another, and definitely one day to another. And if you come to the same place after a year, it can look totally different. So it's all evolving, and we don't know what is the best path for our evolution. We don't know where best we can apply these gifts that we carry, but we can trust that in response we'll be able to really apply them in the most creative way, so that we can follow natural expressions of our own energy and be satisfied as a result of that. Now, going back to the metaphor of king or queen, if instead of sitting on your throne and just waiting for things to come to you and making your decisions in response, instead, if you get up and go looking for something in the next room, the further away you go, the further you're removed from your own power. Your throne is the seat of your power. Your sacral is the seat. This is your throne. This is where you can sit. And that's why the waiting also is not this kind of waiting like when we wait at the post office or when we were waiting as children for the authority to allow us to play, for example, or to do something we wanted to do. It is really an active state of being. This waiting is waiting in your own energy. It's sitting in your own energy. It's sitting on your throne, and it can be very recharging in and of itself. I mean, if you don't respond to anything, obviously it's time for you to stop and just recharge and enjoy to be in your own energy. And if you initiate, there is this feedback that comes to you in the sense of frustration. um, we typically have all kinds of behavioral tendencies that we take on from the earliest childhood, where we approach certain situation through this uh, reference catalog of how to deal with that. This toolbox of, oh, this is the situation 17B. This is how I should behave in this particular situation. This is how I'm going to make it, right? I mean, it got us through the day when we were children. Probably it helped us to survive or to go through the day back then when we didn't have the opportunity to really be ourselves, when we were told how we must behave. But in this process of deconditioning, which is really the grand experiment of human design of your own life. I mean, we're talking about human design, but we're looking at something which is within you. In this process of deconditioning, you're going against these conditioned, ingrained behavioral tendencies. And the more you can attune with what the response actually is for you, and it can take several weeks or several months to even get some kind of idea. Some people get it straight away. Some people take several months, like it took me several months to have at least some kind of idea what the response really is. And the more you're aligned with it, the more you are alive, the more life there is in you. I was mentioning this example of you meeting or seeing a billboard on a street. If it's a billboard for a movie or a concert that you'd like to attend, it's something you didn't see before, and all of a sudden you see it for the very first time, and you can just really feel this rush of energy, this power that increases, this rising up of the frequency of your life force, which is the response. Now, do not confuse response with other things. It can be that you can be very excited about something emotionally. That's not the response. It can be that you can feel pressured and stressed out that you need to do something as fast as possible. Again, that's not the response. You may think that you should do something in one way or another. Again, that's not the response. Response is really this feeling of energy rising up, and it's something that you can tune into the best in the small things in your everyday life, or things that you really enjoy doing, like if you like to walk your dog, or if you like to swim or ski, or spend a Sunday afternoon with friends, in a garden party. um, Whatever it is that you really enjoy doing, where you find yourself being satisfied, that's obviously something that you've responded to. That's where you can be tuning into this sensation. When you do things in your everyday life which are small, you walk by a store and you see something in the window and you go like, wow, this is a really nice shirt. Let me check it out. Let's go in. I like the color. Uh, that is the response where, through these little things in your life, you can begin developing the relationship with it. And the more you strengthen the relationship, the more you stay with this relationship, the more you're able to actually be present to the response, irregardless of whatever else happens for you. Because, for example, you can be going through very intense emotional situations, especially if you have an open solar plexus, the emotional center on the far right, this triangle which is white here. And with an open solar plexus, you're taking in all kinds of emotions and you amplify it, and it can be sometimes overpowering. It can be really intense for you, actually. And yet, you're not meant to do decisions emotionally. You're not here to make decisions based on feelings, but in response. So your response will show you the way how to deal even with these intense emotions. Response is what will take you out, even out of the dark forest, even out of the most difficult situations. It is what's going to show you the path step by step. And so as you're tracking this quality of what the response really means, you're learning to do what the body wants to be doing. Because the response, on some level, we can speak about it as you doing that which your body wants to be doing. It's your body that has the energy all of a sudden to connect with something, to go towards or away from something. Now, I want to say that just because you respond, it doesn't mean that you need to immediately do something. The response is this rising up in the frequency of your life force. It's this energizing feeling, which can be really powerful or it can be very subtle. And yet you can be able to, you can totally be able to recognize it, even though it's subtle. Now, when that happens, it doesn't mean that necessarily this needs to be translated into action. It doesn't. I mean, if you have a channel 3420, which is the only channel of um, here it is, which is the only channel that is both generating and manifesting, yes, then the response is typically directly translated through the movement of your body. But in most other cases, it's not. And so let me go back and yeah, we can look at this. Why not? Let's stay here. So just because you see the billboard, it doesn't mean that you need to run away and buy the tickets today, right? um, it's just telling you that you've got the energy available, and you know that, and then whatever your inner authority is for half of the generators, it's the response itself. uh, that's enough for you to know that yes, you can commit, you can participate, this is totally correct for you. For the other half of the generators that have emotional center defined, their decision making is tied with waiting for emotional clarity, for example. So just the response in and of itself isn't enough for you to give you the green light to go ahead. I'll speak about authorities in a separate recording on authorities, so I won't go into details over here. But I just want to say that your mind isn't always on board with your response. Okay, so very typical example from my own life. When I go to a restaurant and I want to order some food, quite often my mind would tell me to buy one thing, to order something, and my sacral tells me to order something else. And eventually I've learned to surrender, because it is really about surrendering to our life force. I mean, when you know this information now, and you learn to track it, at the beginning it's about, well, how can I recognize the response? Will I ever be able to know what the response actually is? It can seem like that the first few weeks or first few months. Sometimes it's obvious. Many times it's kind of murky. It's kind of like behind the veil. We grasp and we try to tune into that. But once you tune into that, once you know what the response is, then the question is, well, are you going to follow it? And again, this is a challenge. I mean, even now, I'm my 12th year into the experiment. I'm still initiating from time to time because I just can't help it. If you can't help it, fine, but just observe where it takes you, because uh, um, it's going to give you feedback. Life will give you feedback that it's really not worth it. And many times, especially in earlier years in my experiment, I've had to laugh a lot when I was initiating. I was doing something that wasn't happening in response. And I knew that. And I did it anyway. And life gave me the feedback so fast and so clearly that it was just so obvious. It's not worth it. It's not that I wouldn't want to force my way. I'm very willful and stubborn, and so I tried. But eventually, I've actually realized it's not worth it. So the same goes with, for food in restaurants. Many times I've ordered what my mind told me, and I realized I wasn't enjoying it as much as I thought. And when I'm ordering based on what my sacral tells me, and they're not always at odds, my mind and the sacral can want the same thing, quite a lot of times too, but sometimes it's not the case. So for example, once I went to a restaurant and I had a clear idea of what I want. I want this chicken, and it's going to be fried chicken, and this is what I want. And then I get there, and my sacral says, no, you're not getting fried chicken. This is really not what we're connecting with. And it pointed me to this vegetarian Indian food, which I really didn't want from my mind, and I was resisting it. But I ordered it anyway because I've learned the hard way that it's not worth it, right? To initiate, especially when it comes to food. And I got it, and I've had such a pleasant experience. I've enjoyed that food so much, and in this way, I've eaten dishes that I would have never ordered for myself if it was up to my mind, and I've really enjoyed it. And the next time I went to this restaurant, the same one, I had this memory of being so blissed out from that food that I had, this vegetarian food. And funny enough, my sacral that day told me to get something else, and I was like, no, I went, no way, I'm gonna get this thing that I didn't want last time, but I just so loved, and I had it, and it was mediocre. It was as if a different chef cooked it. It was just passable. It was kind of bland, uninteresting, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, sacral, you win. So we learn eventually that if we fight with reality, it doesn't pay off. There is no meaning, or there is no benefit to struggle and fight with the reality, because the reality always wins, and the form principle always wins. As my teacher Genoa says, design is the dealer. It's not up to us. It's up to our life force. In case of generators, that's the strategy to respond to navigate through our lives. And the more you're aligned with your responses, the easier this navigation is. And the easier, it's about uh, building this relationship with your response. And when the relationship is really strong enough, nothing can make you do something else, even though you are in situations where previously you would have been really conditioned or triggered. Now, it doesn't mean you're not stressed out. You can still be stressed out by it, but you can walk through it totally correctly. And the more uh, you're in touch with this response mechanism, and you apply it in your everyday life, the less you'll even be stressed out in these situations, and you'll just walk through it. This is your throne, where you are the king or the queen of your own world when you are functioning in response. So, as I said, when you respond and you say yes to something, you can express your particular gifts and talents, but you're also saying no to all kinds of other things. Once you're committed, once you're connected, once you've responded, your life force isn't all that available. Life force is suspicious of changes, and for the right reason. It really needs to make sure that we survive. It's only available to responding to something when it's part of what you're already involved with, or it's something even more important. Um, let's take a look at this other slide where you can see all the individual gates in the sacral center and their themes. So we spoke already about gate 29, which is the power to say yes, to commit to a process, to make a strong commitment. There is gate 59, the power to break down barriers and achieve union, the gate of sexuality. It all of these gates that are here are particular themes of how this power gets to be expressed. And just because you have that gate activated, it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Just because you have gate 29, it doesn't mean that you always have the power necessary to make a commitment. Only in response you have that power to commit or to break down barriers or to focus. Now, this focus is not mental focus, it's focusing your life force. So if you have gate 9 and you respond, you're able to focus your life force correctly. If you don't, you will be frustrated because you won't be able to focus your energy on whatever it is you're doing. And this focus is really important. If you have it activated, it's a prerequisite for you to be satisfied. Gate 3, the gate of ordering, power to bring order into chaos, also known as the difficulties at the beginning. Yes, if you have gate 3, you can bring new order of things, but the right order and the right sequence of things is that first you respond and then you apply this power. It happens through you, as if you kind of give birth to this quality through your response. It can be actualized. You can really bring order into chaos, but not just because you decide to. You can see all kinds of things that need to be organized, or there needs to be more order in them, and you can't just decide to do it because you have gate 3, even though that is the conditioning, right? But it only works in response. Gate 42, the gate of growth and finishing things. As you are connecting, functioning in response, you can take whatever you do all the way to the end, finish it, and grow as a result, move to the next stage, next level, right? Generators are archetypal quitters, because we often start something not in the response, but we just start it because we think we should or somebody wants us to, and then we don't have the necessary energy to bring it all the way to the end. Power to care and nurture. Yes, again, you have it available in response. You can't just care because you feel responsible. It's on the level of being aware that something needs to be taken care of, but it's not necessarily a response. It's just you being aware of that, oh, this needs to be finished, this needs to be transformed from order from chaos to order, this needs to be nourished and taken care of. Okay, you're aware of that, but the question is, are you actually responding to it? Yeah. Gate 34, the power of the great power, this desire to display one's uniqueness and independence. Gate 5, the gate of fixed rhythms and the gate of waiting. And gate 14, the gate of power skills, which is about holding onto your life force, accumulating it, and releasing it only when the right direction appears. All of these gates function in response. In response, you have this particular theme of power available to you. And even if you don't have the sacral center defined, if you are a projector, for example, and you have this, let's say, gate 27 activated, you can still have this power to care and nurture as long as you function according to your own design, okay? So, yeah, let's take a look at the theme of the generator subtypes. There are two subtypes. There is the pure generator, so-called, and the so-called manifesting generator. And so let's take a look at the main differences. First of all, there is one thing in common. They're both generators. Both of these subtypes have the defined sacral center, as you can see here, and you can see here, okay? And that means that they have the generator aura, and their strategy is to wait to respond. Now, what makes a manifesting generator to be a manifesting generator? I already said that there are these 4 motors in the chart, and manifesting generator, on top of being a generator through its defined sacral, also has one of these 4 motors connected with the throat. Throat is the place of manifestation, of expression, and the motor is the source of energy. So the energy can be immediately manifested, expressed through the throat here, or it can be through this channel, or it could even be through another center, like the root. If there would be gate 16, it would also bring the motor energy to the throat. This is what makes a manifesting generator, which is a generator with this capacity to be really fast, with this drive, with this increased activity. And typically manifesting generators can skip over unimportant things and move ahead quite fast. you could say that in response, they can do a whole series of steps. As they move, they don't go in a linear order. They don't go from A to B to C, but rather they're jumping all over, okay, to get to where they want. And sometimes they can seem like Superman or Superwoman, really powerful, doing all kinds of stuff, until they realize that they've missed something that is really important and they need to go back to it. And they can be really aggravated or angry by that. Not just frustrated, but also angry. Being a manifesting generator myself, I know how easy it is to go from one point to another. And instead of going straight, which isn't really the manifesting generator way, we're jumping all over. And it's like the activities in a day are branching so wildly that they can be so many things that we do that before we actually get to where we want to be, we may end up totally frustrated and exhausted by doing all kinds of things that we shouldn't actually do, that were totally unnecessary for us. Okay, some of it can be totally correct. Some of these things can be correct. You can do this because you're on the way to the grocery store. You can stop at the post office since it's on the way, and somebody calls you and you pick up the phone and start a conversation. And maybe you can even do something on the email while you're waiting at the queue in the post office. But then just because you're near that shop around the corner where you also wanted to go, it doesn't mean you're meant to go there, because when you get there, there is a crowd of people, and you're waiting queue at the checkout counter, and it just annoys you, and all of a sudden you lose your flow. You can be frustrated, you don't enjoy it anymore. And it's really important for you as a manifesting generator in particular to learn what it means to respond. And in particular for manifesting generators, it's more challenging, it's more difficult to recognize what the response actually really is. To respond for manifesting generator is also kind of a mystery, as was the case with myself. It took me several months to get what it is, because we're so wired, we're so geared to just whatever we think about to make it into action. Okay. But if we do that, we are ahead of everybody else. We're ahead of ourselves. And instead of us being really part of what's happening and being part of something larger, where, we're meant to work together as generators. Definitely, we're not manifestors. We're meant to work together to really achieve something significant. And if the manifesting generator is too fast for their own good, they're running ahead of themselves, ahead of everybody else. And then the whole responsibility really is on them, and they don't enjoy it, and they can't really do it, and they're not satisfied. They can be exhausted, frustrated, or even angry. Okay. When we look at the pure generator, pure generators are people that go through things from A to B to C to D and so on. They go really step by step by step. They are generators who, when something comes from outside and initiates their response, they make a step, but then they need to wait for another something to come again from outside to initiate another step in their process. And it's really working together with others as a team. We're not wired as generators to really function independently. It's for manifestors, not for generators, not for projectors, not for reflectors. So this process of pure generator is very thorough, very step by step. And they're not running around like headless chickens like the manifesting generators sometimes can be. By the way, I really like what my teacher Genoa said about a manifesting generator with an open root center in their not self. This is not the definition of the true self, but in their not self, they can be like a Superman on cocaine, which I have a lot of stories to tell because that applies to me. So I totally resonate. But with pure generators, it's really about this more steady march forward, this A to B to C to D. And they may seem, compared to manifesting generators, that they are not so fast. And in fact, they're not, but they have their own advantages in their own process, because there is, nothing is better. Every design is perfect if you live it as it's meant to be lived out. Then every design is perfect, and we're wired to different things. So where the manifesting generator can seem like they've mastered something in a week, only to, to come to the light that they've skipped something so important that it creates a total chaos. The pure generator won't maybe give off the impression like they've mastered it in a week, but they'll do much thorough work at it, because they'll go methodically, step by step by step. So that is the main difference between these two subtypes. And sometimes you can find on the internet things that say that there are 4 types, sometimes there are 5 types, that manifesting generator is another type. I've read on the internet that manifesting generator needs to respond and inform, which is the strategy of manifestors. That's a nonsense. There are only 4 types: manifesting generator and pure generator. Both have the generator aura. They both have this field that attracts. And without response, we're nothing. Through response, we're everything. Through response, we're actually learning and finding out who we truly, really are. Okay? So the strategy of responding is our path to life with the least amount of resistance. We do not need to fight that which is just smoking mirror. Like when we initiate, when we do things because we think we should, or somebody wants us to, or just out of the habit or conditioning, uh, it's like if you try to walk through a wall, you're banging your head against the wall, you can't walk through it. It just doesn't work. If you fight with reality, you will always win. And the more you fight, the more painful it is. The more you hit your head on the wall, the more it hurts. Okay? So this is the path of surrendering to your life force, allowing it to express itself creatively, to follow the natural expression of your life force. Ideally, to use up all the life force you have in any given day, which, by the way, goes to the recommendation that children generators, children shouldn't have a bedtime. That you shouldn't tell them it's time to go to bed. It's 7 p.m. Go take a shower and go to bed, or it's 8 p.m. Go to bed. Um, the reason for that is that the motor that we have, the sacral center, is an incredible motor. It really needs to give off all of its energy in any given day so that you can then really sleep and really have a restful sleep, to really be recharged, right? Now, if you go to bed as a child, and it probably happened to most of us, to most of you that are listening to this recording, if you had a bad time and you had to go to bed at a particular time when your parents told you, chances are you've had a lot of unused energy. It's like if you have a gas in your car in the tank, and you need to really uh, use it all up to come home with an empty tank, so that you can really be recharged in the morning. But if when we were told to go to bed and we didn't feel like it, what happens is that this motor gets out of tune, out of sync. It corrodes. It's not healthy for us, actually. So the suggestion is, do not give generator children time to go to bed. Obviously, it may be challenging to get them up in the morning, so it's up to you. However you organize this suggestion, however you apply it. I would also add that if they're sitting in front of the TV or computer, that doesn't count, because we know that people can really disconnect from the feelings of being tired when they watch TV or computer. So I think that doesn't apply. But if they're up, if they want to read, if they want to play with something, draw, whatever, ideally let them be, and they will grow up as really people with a lot of energy. That way you'll support the power of their motor. Okay. Um, kind of in closing, we're towards the end of this recording. I want to say that it is extremely important how we enter into things, the manner in which we've entered into anything. And it can be a relationship, it can be project, it can be anything. It really is important. If you do that in response, you have all of this energy available. Then you can apply this life force, this sexual energy, this response and connection to be engaged, to endure, to be available to it in your own timing. And more on the sacral center when I speak about the centers and the recordings on centers themselves. But response is unlocking this potential. If you enter into some situation or relationship or project or anything, and it doesn't happen through response, it happens because you're initiating. Whatever you're encountering there is not only going to be challenging, but it's not really meant for you to be part of, for it to be part of your way. It's not meant to be part of your life. So it's really challenging to deal with that. Okay, you may meet resistance that you're not equipped to deal with actually, and it can bring a lot of unnecessary suffering and frustration and exhaustion into your life. So response is this energetic phenomenon. Don't try to figure it out in your mind, but yes, the intellectual understanding is helpful so that you can learn to tune into this energetic sensation. As a generator, your strategy is to wait to respond in order to really discover who you are through fully living out all these gifts and talents that you carry, and to be satisfied as the result. Now, if you initiate, you end up being frustrated and or angry in case of manifesting generators, which again, this is a valuable feedback from life, kind of like if you put your finger into a fire or a candle and it burns you, and that's the feedback that, hey, this isn't actually correct for me. So in the same way, we get this feedback from life which says, hey, you're probably doing something you shouldn't be doing. And so this response can take you to stop saying what you're saying, stop doing it, or maybe start doing something else, or maybe go away. In response, you can do all kinds of things. Um, there are endless possibilities, but this feedback from life that you get in form of these uncomfortable feelings, this frustration primarily, and all other things that you can learn to recognize as a sign that you're not really responding. This is a super valuable feedback. When that happens, instead of trying to figure out how to deal with the situation, how to change the world around us so that you feel better, because that's typically what we do. Instead of that, go back to your center. When you feel frustrated, remember to go back to waiting, go back to your response. And through that, you'll always make your path through whatever situation to ultimately live out your full potential and be satisfied. So, yeah, this is it for the generators. Thank you for your attention. Hopefully, this is going to support you in responding, in learning what it means or applying it more. And if you're not a generator, hopefully, this is going to help you understand generators better. Um, Take care and bye for now.